Welcome to Your City Connections, where you get to meet entertaining and informative guests. Guests such as an artist with a brush or with a camera, and guest with a violin. City Connections, providing insightful interviews with favorite son Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb. To city commissioners, the mayor. Interviews with a rodeo queen, to beauty queen, and even a NBA player. Now, join Steve Keim as he discusses another engaging topic on City Connections.
Hello and welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Keim with the City of Enid. Thank you for joining me again this week. And I guess the gifts keep on giving, because we have a special gift for you today, because we get to speak with the chairman of the board and the chief executive officer of Groendyke Transport Incorporated, the 5th largest motor carrier in the United States, Canada, and also Mexico. We'll find out what all that means in just a few moments. My special guest graduated from Wentworth Military Academy in Missouri, and then he went on to get his Bachelor of Science degree from the Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. And then, in case you don't know this, he has a law degree, and he obtained that at the University of Oklahoma. And then also, he was in the Army. He served as a captain in the U.S. Army. And then after all of that, it seemed like he came back to assist with Groendyke Trucking. Now, you know my special guest, he's involved in so many boards across the state of Oklahoma, but he serves in many affiliations, very much on the giving back mindset of our special guest. He's been inducted into the Spears School of Business, which is at Oklahoma State University. And of course, he's at the Hall of Fame at Oklahoma State University. And besides a family man, he's interested in wildlife, old cars, I guess I should say wildlife conservation, and real estate, farming, ranching, the list goes on. And I'm anxious to talk about this collection and showing of his cars. My special guest today on City Connections, John Groendyke. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being
here.
Well,
nice to be here.
And this is a nice office. Thanks. You allowed us to get out of the Enid Television Network studios to use your office. Thank you so much. John, I know you served on many boards, and it seems like you're on this Hall of Fame, that Hall of Fame, and those Hall of Fames. The list goes on. And in your bio, I noticed that you're in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, which is a very distinguished group of individuals that have truly committed their lives to make a difference for Oklahomans and the state. And also recently, you, for 2016, are a new member of the Enid Walk of Fame. So when I mentioned the Oklahoma State Hall of Fame and the Oklahoma Hall of Fame and the Enid, Walk of Fame, what do those honors mean to you?
Well, it means a great deal. It's nice to be able to be in a position to give back to the community and to the state. And as you mentioned a little earlier, I've had a kind of a broad interest in a lot of different things.
Sure.
I've served on the Wildlife Commission as the District 8 representative for a number of years, and historically served on the industrial development area in the Chamber of Commerce in Enid when we were trying to attract new business and keep current businesses in Enid and Oklahoma. And I have been very interested in Oklahoma medical research. My wife has been very active on the board and has served on that board for 15 plus years. And so we've enjoyed that, and have supported all kinds of wildlife conservation issues. I endowed the Groendyke Endowed Chair in the Natural Resources section of Agriculture at Oklahoma State University that is doing a lot of research on wildlife. They're the people that have been doing the quail and the lesser prairie chicken work in western Oklahoma at Pack Saddle Wildlife Management Area, and also at Beaver, Oklahoma at the Beaver Wildlife Management Area. So I think a combination of all of those things over a period of time. And as you know, our trucking business has been home since 1935 in Enid, Oklahoma. So we've been here a long time.
And we want to talk a little bit why it still is in Enid. Probably should have said at the outset, when I was going over John's bio, that was probably about 5% of everything that he's been involved in. But for the sake of time, I didn't want to cover everything. John, let's go back real quick to the Enid Walk of Fame. You see individuals' names like Dan Dillingham, Paul Allen, the list goes on. All these individuals that have truly made a difference in Enid. When you think, I know Enid is your home, but when you hear Enid, Oklahoma, play the word association game with me. When you hear Enid, what comes to mind?
Well, you know, I think when you travel around this country and people say, where do you live? And I say, Enid, Oklahoma. The first jump thing comes up, it says, oh, Vance Air Force Base. It's amazing how many people over a period of, 60 plus years have had family or a personal connection with Vance Air Force Base, which brought them to Enid. And a lot of people appreciate the agricultural base in Enid and our wheat storing capacity and the hard red winter wheat we produce. And I believe that Garfield and Alfalfa and Grant counties are probably the most active in the wheat acreage that's planted every year. So I think Enid just has a great reputation and a good history.
John, you mentioned the beginning of Groendyke trucking was in Enid, Oklahoma, and you mentioned 1935. And I believe that was your father that started the trucking company.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us in a snapshot, kind of a synopsis of how it got started? How did your dad get involved in trucking and something like that?
Well, my dad was born and raised on a farm that my grandparents came from Meriden, Kansas in 1902 with 2 children. My dad had 2 older sisters. One was 10 years older and one was 8 years older, and they moved to Oklahoma in 1902 and homesteaded on a farm south of Beaver, Oklahoma, 12 miles and 3 miles west on Clear Creek. And during that period of time, they built a house, dug a well, built a barn, and that's where my dad was raised and born in a sod house in 1908. They later built one of those prefabbed houses that you ordered from Montgomery Ward or whatnot for
I've heard that
dollars.
you could order a home from Sears or Montgomery Ward out of the
$500 and some dollars. They shipped it out on the rail to Liberal, Kansas, and they took the wagon up and picked the house up and moved it down to south of Beaver and built that home. But my dad went to Beaver High School, graduated, and then attended Panhandle Agricultural and Mechanical Institute at Goodwill, Oklahoma, which is now Panhandle State University. From that, he got out, and that was he graduated from college at Goodwill in 1931 and actually taught school a year in a one-room schoolhouse out there. My dad got a degree in mathematics and had a college mathematics teaching certificate. But when he got out, it was just right kind of in the Dust Bowl and the Depression and pretty hard times. And I always remember his saying that teacher's pay was $25 a month. So he was entitled to a pay raise, he thought. But anyway, he did that for 1 year, and then he was always very mechanically inclined, and my grandfather was also living on the farm, and he took a Ford Model A truck, AA Ford truck, and built a trailer with an 800-gallon tank on it and started hauling kerosene and gasoline from the Phillips 66 refinery that's still in Borger, Texas, up to a filling station, and he was a jobber or had a filling station, a Phillips filling station in Beaver, Oklahoma, and he decided he could haul his own fuel up there. And in the beginning, he hauled lumber, he hauled salt, he hauled livestock, and then in 1932, he started the trucking business there in the summer, and then eventually moved to Enid on a full-time basis in 1935 because of the refineries here in Enid. There was the Eason refinery and the Champlin refinery, and all of the gas that he was hauling to customers in Guyman, Boise City, Woodward, and in western Oklahoma. All of it came from Enid, Oklahoma, so he moved his operation here in 1935. First area to have trucks and all was right south of the Bond Bakery location on Independence there. A lot of pictures of the early day trucking in there and all, and we've grown the business from that. You know, my dad was a true pioneer in the truck transportation business. He liked mechanical drawing and mathematics, and he did a lot of work on trying to lower the center of gravity and change the shape of trailers to make them more oval versus round to get the weight down so they were more stable and less likely to roll over and all, and built a lot of trailers with Butler Trailer out of Kansas City and V.I. Mosier, which was Vim Trailer. that built a lot of, during the Second World War, there wasn't equipment. You had to go build it.
It was all going to the war effort.
It was all going to the war effort, and you had to take care of what you had, or you had to rebuild it and switch the motors out and do a lot of maintenance on that equipment. And they would say that you'd average 4 or 5 flat tires a week. Well, today we don't average a flat tire once every 6 months on these new trucks. But you always carried 2 spares, a jack, and the truck driver was always in position to change the tires on the truck to get it back, hopefully, to the terminal safely. So it's changed a lot in 84 years.
Wow, it's very impressive. My special guest on City Connections today is John Groendyke. John is the chairman of the board and CEO of Groendyke Trucking Incorporated. John, you mentioned, or at the outset, I mentioned Groendyke Trucking. You get on any interstate, any road in Oklahoma, across the country, you're going to see a truck goes by that says Groendyke. You have a strong presence, of course, in the United States and Canada and Mexico. My question is, why is home for Groendyke Trucking still remain in Enid, Oklahoma? I know, I understand its beginnings,
sure,
but you could probably choose.
We're pretty well in the center of our operations here. We have operations in Kansas, Colorado, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and all. And so this has been our home for over 75, 80 years now, and all. And I says, being in the trucking business, everybody can finance or buy trucks and trailers. It's kind of the quality of people that you can attract and keep, and we're proud of the fact, as a family-owned business, that we have a lot of employees that have been with us 30 plus years, and several that have been with us over 50 years. Gene Brown, who lives here in Enid, moved here from Borger, and he started working for Groendyke Transport when he was in high school, washing trucks at Borger, Texas, and over a 54-year tenure with Groendyke Transport, became executive vice president in charge of sales and marketing, and did an excellent job for us. Dean McCullough, that lives in Enid, Oklahoma, his dad started with my dad in the mid-1930s, and Dean has been with us over 52 years. So we have a lot of longevity and a lot of people, and Enid has always been our home. I have a strong interest in agriculture, and we operate some farming and ranching areas north of Enid and all. Sure. Just sold a ranch a few years ago in Blaine County that we had. So I've always been and spent quite a bit of time in the agricultural side of our business and the oil and gas side of our business, and then the trucking business. Yeah.
John, let's change our topic for just a moment before we take our first break. In your bio, it says that you are serving your sixth term as Commissioner of District 8 for the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. Now, I know wildlife conservation is near and dear to you, so my question is, what is your role in this organization, and why the passion for wildlife conservation?
Oh, I've always liked wildlife. My dad was a pretty avid hunter. Like to fish, but don't fish quite as much as I do hunt. When I got out of law school, David Bourne became governor of the state of Oklahoma.
Okay.
And he gave me a call and he said, "John, I'd like to appoint you to the Pardon and Parole Board." And I said, "Well, Governor, what did I do to make you so mad at me that you'd want to put me on the Pardon and Parole Board?" I said, "That's probably not something that I would embrace and all." He said, "Well, what about the Wildlife Department?" I said, "Well, that's something I could really get interested in and all." And he appointed me to serve an unexpired term that a gentleman from Beaver, Oklahoma, that owns the Beaver Herald, and the family is still in that business out there. He had resigned, and I took over that position 40 years ago this month. And that's an 8-year term, so I served the balance of that term out and been reappointed by numerous different governors.
Right.
And it's been a real pleasure. I tell you, one of the things that I've appreciated, and I've said this recently on the retirement of our director that's been with the department, Richard Hatcher, for 37 years. I've been pleased that those state employees really have a passion, as I do, for wildlife and the outdoors. And our tenure of employees is over 15 years on the average out of 348 employees. And it's good that we have, we manage about 1,500,000 acres across the state of Oklahoma, own about 2/3 of it outright. And we have oil and gas, we have timber sales, And as a lot of people know, the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife is a constitutional body. We have our own budget. We do not get any state funds from the legislature. All of it comes from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and federal grants from Pittman Robinson, Dingle Johnson, which is the sale of boat and sporting funds from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses, equipment, hunting apparel, guns, and fishing equipment. So we've been very fortunate. We've been very financially stable. I've been chairman a number of times during my term on there, and for the last 10 years, been chairman of the Finance and Retirement Committee. Just recently hired a brand new director, J.D. Strong. J.D. was previously had worked in state government for 23 years, and the job he just left to become the director of the Wildlife Department. He was the director of the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, and prior to that he was director of the Department of Environmental Quality. So he has a good background and a good history, and I think he's going to make an excellent director. But we have bought, in my tenure in western Oklahoma, we have bought the Hal and Fern Cooper Wildlife Management Area at Fort Supply, 16,000 acres. The Beaver River Wildlife Management Area that runs from Beaver on the river just about clear to Turpin, 20 miles. It's 29,000 acres. And we have Sandy Sanders, over 20,000 acres by Sayre, Oklahoma. And we have about over 20,000 acres at Pack Saddle, south of Arnett, though. So we've got a lot of great hunting opportunity, and also just bought a piece of property, the Wildlife Department, that adjoins the Sandy Sanders property that has a 105-acre spring-fed lake on it, because a lot of people don't realize that everyone talks about deer hunting and all, but for every hunting license we sell in Oklahoma, we sell over 2 to 3 fishing licenses. So we need to make sure that we have fishing opportunity. We have great lakes, private lakes and reservoirs in Oklahoma for the fishermen, but they're also a very, very important part of our stakeholders and the base that uses the Wildlife Department to help them.
Based on what you've shared, it's obvious that it's a win-win situation. It's wildlife conservation is a passion of yours, and yet you can take that enthusiasm and passion and move it to the Wildlife Conservation Department, so it's a win-win.
And
well,
I've been very interested in Oklahoma State. They've been a true partner with the Wildlife Department in working on research on the quail and lesser prairie chicken. And that's been a great project. You know, 30 years ago, we harvested less than 10,000 deer in the state of Oklahoma, and for the last 5 years, we've harvested on an average over 100,000 deer a year. In some areas, we have probably a few too many deer, and there's a lot of good management initiatives to probably make that deer herd healthier, better, and provide a greater opportunity for the sportsman.
Well, I can attest to the deer population because I live just south of Enid, and I see more and more deer going through my yard and the farm area that I have out there. So things are healthy in that regard. John, we need to take a short break. Thank you for your time this morning, and we've just began our visit with John Groendyke here on City Connections. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to talk about some old cars, the passion for that, and maybe a little bit more wildlife conservation. But we have more for you with John Groendyke here on City Connections, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to City Connections. I'm Steve Keim, Director of Public Relations and Marketing with the City of Enid, and also have the privilege to work with the Enid Television Network. And as you know, we have the opportunity to visit with governors, former governors of Oklahoma, CEOs across the state, and just plain good folks. I'm from Perry, Oklahoma, so I can say folks because I was raised that way. But we have the real privilege today on City Connections to speak with John Groendyke. And John has just shared with us about his passion for wildlife conservation and his role, also his role in his the work that he's done with Oklahoma State University, and really all the accolades and all the achievement that he's had. But one of the achievements that he has obtained that has my interest is the collection of automobiles. Now I don't have any, and my wife says, "That's good, Steve. We don't need you collecting any more stuff that you have." But I like old pickup trucks and old cars. So tell us a little bit, John, about your collection. When did that start, and how did your collection develop?
Well, my dad and I was always very mechanically inclined, being in the trucking business.
Sure.
And, we have truck shops at about every terminal around the country, with 29 locations in various states in the south central part of the United States. And my dad passed away 31 years ago, this coming October. And when he passed away, we had 4 Model Ts and a 29 Pontiac convertible. And I had them for 4 or 5 years, and I had gone to Chatham, Ontario, Canada to look at a pilot of a new truck we were buying with Navistar International Truck. And Boyd Freeman across the street. Boyd at the time, Freeman Equipment, was the oldest and longest international dealer in the United States. Been in it over 70, 80 years at that time. And we'd gone up there to look at the new truck that we were going to purchase. And when we finished that, the gentleman there with Navistar said, "Would you like old antique cars? R&M, restorations and sales, is just about 4 blocks from us. If you'd like to drop by there, I know the founder and the owner of it. We'll go over there and look at that." I said, "Well, sure, I'd love to do that." So went over there, and they had some mainly 1930s classic cars, and got acquainted with Rob Myers, who was the founder and starter of that, a small company he had there and all. And I ended up trading him the Pontiac, 29 Pontiac convertible, and 3 Model Ts for a 1934 Packard V12 rumble seat coupe. Beautiful car. Got it home, really liked it and all, and that's kind of started it. Now,
how long is this Packard? It's got to be.
Oh, it was fairly long, V12, but a very pretty car.
Yeah.
And I had it for a while. Then I bought a 1937 Cord convertible, and I would say, here we are 20 years later, and probably 150 cars later, buying and selling and trading. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed collecting mainly 1930s cars, Duesenbergs, Packards, V16 Cadillacs, Pierce Arrows, and I've even got off and collected some Rolls Royces and French Delahaye's and DeLodges and things like that. But I kind of look back and kind of laugh at myself. I collected stamps as a young man, and had a coin collection. And I always got fairly narrowly focused. I seemed to enjoy it more if I didn't have too much. So when I collected gold coins, I ended up getting down to just collecting $20 St. Gaudens gold coins, and did that and got the whole set put together and sold it and started on another project. So that's kind of like my car collection. We try to keep the car collection at about 20 to 25 cars. I've had pretty good diversity of all kinds of cars in there, but the last 3 or 4 years I've kind of decided to get narrowly focused on the collection, and I have been very interested in V16 Cadillacs, which were built from 1930 to 1940 by General Motors. And over half of my collection now is V16 Cadillacs, and I've got them from 1930. The only one I'm missing is a 1939 out of the 10. And I've got 3 1930s, and I've got 3 or 4 cars in there, I think 4, that they're the only one known to exist today in V16 Cadillacs. I've got a custom-bodied 1930 Cadillac that was owned by the Howard family, and he was a Buick dealer, and General Motors bought him out of these Buick dealerships, and he wanted to buy a 1930 Cadillac and put a custom Murphy body on it from Pasadena, California. And the Murphy Body Company was very, very well known and popular, and they built probably I know over 50% of all the bodies that went on Duesenberg cars. Well, they wouldn't sell him a chassis, so he bought a Roadster, shipped it to San Francisco. They took the body off and then shipped the chassis, and they put this custom four-door convertible sedan Duesenberg-style body on a V16 Cadillac. So it's rare in that one. I've got one of the, I think, 5 aerodynamic coupes that they built in 1934. I've got that. And then I've got a 36 154-inch wheelbase V16 convertible, only one known to exist. And then I have a 1937 stationary coupe. So I've got a pretty broad array of V16s. But I've kind of enjoyed that and all. And people say, well, aren't you about finished? I said, well, I could, there's 3 or 4 more out there. If they become available, I'd like to have. And I'd probably sell 3 or 4 that I have.
Sure.
And all. So it's been a fun hobby.
So it's safe to say that he has a Cadillac dealership, but his emphasis is on 1930 models. So that's really impressive, John. Thank you for sharing that. The thing I like about old cars, and I share this with my wife, is the history. It's a piece of Americana, if you will, but it's a piece of American history in the 20s, in the 30s, in the 40s. So when you see those cars or trucks, it's a slice of time in our great country, and I really enjoy that. John, let's talk a little bit about a topic that's very popular, the Grand National Quail Club. Can you kind of just share with us the beginning of that, of the invitation of celebrities? I know lieutenant governors, dignitaries from all over come to the Grand National Quail event, and I believe it's entering its 50th hunt here in November. And at the City of Enid, one of our council meetings, I'll be presenting a proclamation in regards to the 50th hunt, Grand National Quail Hunt. So take us back to the beginning and why celebrities and things like this, John.
Well, I know is Dr. Chambers. There was a doctor here in Enid, Oklahoma, and Henry Bellman and several other people had attended the one-shot antelope hunt in Lander, Wyoming. That's still a very active organization, and they still have that every year. They were up there and saw that and got the idea that this would be an excellent way to attract people to Oklahoma, to kind of showcase Northwest Oklahoma, to attract some maybe business opportunities and attract some people to come to this part of Oklahoma. And my dad was one of the original founders of the club in 1967, and they had the hunt, and they were very active. And I look back, John Conley, the governor of Texas, was here. The former recent governor was here as a past shooter. Had a lot of the people that I knew the best was probably Dale Robertson, who was born and raised in Oklahoma and was in the horse business and in the movie business for a long, long time. He was here for 25, 30 years and all.
It was many, many years ago, but the last time I saw Dale Robertson was at an old car auction in Oklahoma City years ago.
Well, he and my father were good friends, and he brought a number of people that were involved in the motion and picture industry out here. Ben Johnson was born and raised over around Pawhuska. He was very active, and I hunted he and Joe Williams, the Williams families that have the Williams companies in Tulsa and all. A number of years we had General Schwarzkopf here. Was an excellent sportsman and an excellent shooter. I know he would always say when he moved to a new base, I know you've got a great golf course here, but we better have a gun club here, or the construction engineers will probably remove the golf course if we don't have a matching gun club here shortly. So he was very enjoyable here. So we've had a lot of great celebrities from government. William Saxby, when he was Attorney General of the United States, was here. We've had numerous astronauts here. Tom Stafford, Weatherford, Oklahoma and all.
He's got a great museum over there.
Yeah, he was just in Enid here not too long ago. He'd come up. There's a gentleman in Alva that produces some aircraft parts and all. He came to visit there, came to Enid to see the Turkey Strip History Center Museum here. And I had lunch with him and showed him the car collection. So I enjoyed that. And Gene Cernan. So we've had a lot of, people that had ties to Oklahoma and everything. So the Grand National, it's always sometimes hard to measure how many dollars it generated and all, but it sure brought some exposure to Oklahoma. And if you look at it's had some impact, not always all on Enid, but in northwest Oklahoma. And it's been, I think, a great opportunity for people to learn more about Oklahoma and what we have here. And we have a great workforce and people that are willing to work and have good integrity.
And that's one thing as Director of Marketing for the City of Enid that I share with people from across the state or wherever, whatever venue I'm speaking with them in regards to marketing the community. And I will mention the Grand National Quail Club, excuse me, the hunt, and how that is a marketing piece for Enid, Oklahoma. Typically, an individual may not get to northwest Oklahoma, but they do come to Enid because of the hunt, and then they get to be introduced to the way of life. And so it is a great marketing piece. I know you've been involved with Oklahoma State, again with the Spears School of Business and Oklahoma State Hall of Fame. And John, I want to talk a little bit as we close our interview today, a little bit about education. A bachelor's degree, well, you went to Wentworth Academy in Missouri, for high school and some of your junior college work, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And then Oklahoma State, you got your bachelor's degree, law degree from University of Oklahoma. So it's obvious that education has played a role in your life. And for the young person that's watching our show today, and they're just fascinated by the cars, wildlife, and everything that you've been talking about, what would you say to the individual about the importance of education in your life, but also in their life?
Well, I just think the more education you have, it gives you more broader opportunities to be successful out there. One thing that I always think back on, I had a chaplain at Wentworth Military Academy in a program that he was putting on, and he said, there's only one thing I want to tell you as cadets here at this academy. All your parents can do with the money they spent to send you here is provide you an opportunity, and it's kind of up to you to make sure you take advantage of it. You don't have to. You can waste it or squander it, but if you'll take advantage of those opportunities as they come up, it can give you an opportunity to be very successful in life. And I think, going to law school, I always knew I was going to come back into the trucking business and all, but it has sure helped me analyze business issues and problems and all, and work through those and come to a decision of how we ought to proceed and all. And as you said a little bit earlier, we're one of the largest trucking companies in the United States. I would just make the caveat there, we are in the liquid bulk side of the business, so we're not a competitor, or that fifth ranking is not compared with J.B. Hunt, Snyder, Swift out of Phoenix or whatnot. We're in the liquid bulk side of the business, but I am proud that being number 5 in the liquid bulk side of the business, we're the only one in the top 10 that's privately owned. The rest of them are all publicly traded companies all, and we've been able to be successful and continue to grow and thrive for 84 years, and looking forward to celebrating our 85th year next year.
Oh, well, I hope you invite us to the party.
Okay. Well, we had a great one on our 75th.
Yeah. Well, John, we need to close our interview. I think we could spend all day talking cars, to be honest, but we've got to open this up to other topics. My final question to you is, your dad was a tremendous influence, undoubtedly, on your life and setting you in the right motion for Wentworth Academy and education, things of this nature, and just the influence. But what do you attribute your success to? Can I ask you that?
I think Wentworth Military Academy did a lot for me. I was a fairly shy, not really outgoing person and all, and probably going to a smaller school. They really taught you how to study, kind of how to prioritize your time. And, from first call at 6:15 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, you were pretty active. You were either playing sports or doing something and all. And I think, I couldn't be 5 minutes late for a meeting if I wanted to. And like I tell people, I think I've marched in more Class A dress parades. I figured up the other day probably over 250 of them. in 7 years at Whitworth Military Academy. I was the Corps commander my last 2 years and played football, basketball, and track all through high school, and played football and ran track in junior college. So it gave me a lot of opportunity and a lot of exposure, and I'd say self-confidence. And you know, my dad was one of those people that grew up during the Depression and very, very tough times. And he said, you know, there's a lot of things, nothing's impossible. It might be impractical or difficult, but if you just make your mind up, you're going to get it done, you can be successful. And I think it's just being tenacious and staying with it and don't quit.
Yeah, and tenacious is a fancy word for being stubborn. You know, stubborn for the right things.
Well, that's right.
John,
that's right.
My mother was a big influence on me, and she taught me that 8 o'clock was really 7:55. You know, she taught me about the importance of never being late, but on her clock it was never 8. It was always before that. But I had an opportunity to work for a gentleman at Phillips Petroleum in a previous life, and he said, Steve, no matter what you do, wherever you go, just always remember this: surround yourself with the best people, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that was many, many years ago that he shared that with me. So I'm hearing you saying that in so many words when you're talking about the family atmosphere at Groendyke Transport and the people that have been with you for the longest time. And you've learned so true, surround yourself with the best people. Well, John, Groendyke's going to be 85, you said, next year?
Yes, sir.
Well, Enid turned 123 years ago, just a few weeks ago, during the Enid Walk of Fame ceremony. Enid turned 123.
Wow.
This is a commemorative coin.
Well, thank you.
It has the Enid logo on one side. And just a reminder that we turned 123 here in September of 2016. So when we turn 125, that's going to be a big party too. But anyway, John, thank you so much for your time today. It's
very enjoyable.
It's been a real pleasure to get to know you, and appreciate all this. And thank you for joining us on City Connections. You could tell I'm having the time of my life when I get to talk history, but to talk about people here in Oklahoma that have truly made a difference in their community, in their family lives, and also in the state of Oklahoma. So I hope you've enjoyed John Groendyke here on City Connections. Until next time, I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid. Make it a great day.